Hello, my name is Andy and I am the village idiot, and I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. Well, the sun's out and it's shining today. Beautiful blue sky up above me and a beautiful village to walk around as well. I'm filming this intro having almost walked the entire way around this one, so I can tell you unequivocally that this is a nice village and you're in for a treat. This is the parish of Wilberfoss. Wilberfoss is a village and civil parish in the East Riding of Yorkshire, situated on the north side of the A1079 road. Here we are approximately 8 miles east of York city centre and 11 miles northwest of Market Weighton. According to the 2011 UK census, Wilberfoss parish had a population of 1,866, an increase on the 2001 UK census figure of 1,855. This is certainly a very pretty village and has much to offer. This was my first time in the place and it took me by surprise as to how much it has, how nice it is and how much history it has. There's a nice mix of old and new properties here, this being a commuter village for York that's grown through time. Plenty of references so far to pear trees here for some reason, so we've just seen Pear Tree Close, and up here on Butts Lane we have number 6 Butts Lane is called Pear Trees. I wonder what that's all about. Wilberfoss lies in close proximity to 2 Roman roads, one to the east of the village and one to the south, which is now under the A1079. No surprise then that Roman artefacts have been located here. Wilberfoss was first mentioned in 1150 as Wilburgfos, indicating it was probably an Anglican settlement. In 1823, inhabitants in the village numbered just 335, so you can see how much this one has grown in just 200 years. Occupations at that time included 15 farmers, some of whom were landowners. Wilberfoss also boasted 3 shopkeepers, although these days there's just the one shop. There were 2 wheelwrights, 2 blacksmiths, a butcher, a bricklayer, a corn miller, a baker, a tailor, and a wholesale brewer. Bain's History Directory and Gazetteer of the County of York states that the ancient and respectable family of Wilberfoss resided here from the Norman Conquest to 1710, after which the family estate and mansion were both sold. A family descendant was William Wilberforce, and you may have heard that name before. He's famous in the East Riding. Wilberforce supported the complete abolition of slavery, a campaign that led to the Slavery Abolition Act in 1833, which abolished slavery in most of the British Empire. Long before the time of William Wilberforce, Wilberfoss had a priory, a house of Benedictine nuns, and it was founded by Elias de Cotton during the reign of Henry II. The priory lay just to the north of St John's Church, and nothing remains of it today. Most of Wilberfoss's oldest buildings can be found on Middle Street, but if you look around there are fabulous examples of old architecture everywhere. Notable buildings include the Grade 2 listed Old Vicarage from the late 18th century on Main Street and Villa Farm, also on Main Street. So Wold View is definitely right, because in the distance here on Burker Lane, just beyond these trees, I'll just come out of the way of this car, you can see the Wolds. Just there under my finger, above my finger I should say, there's the walls just there. In comparison to just 200 years ago, currently there are 822 households in the village, as well as a pub and a general store, which is also a post office. There's still a butcher's and there's a hairdresser's. There's also a children's private day nursery, a garden centre and a village school for pupils up to 11 years old. There's also a number of small to medium businesses that are thriving in the parish. I liken this one to Thorgumbold, a village that's always busy. So the street we're walking down currently is called Windmill Meadows. Now, a bit later on, when we have a look at the amenities section, outside the community centre there's a mosaic in the floor, and one of the things depicted on that mosaic is a windmill, and I wonder whether or not these two are connected, whether the windmill was here, because these are all new build houses. So I would probably imagine that the windmill no longer exists, or if it does exist I haven't come across it yet, and these were built here where it used to stand, or maybe it does still stand. My assumption was absolutely spot on. Wilberfoss was a typical Wolds village until the mid-20th century. As such, the windmill stood on a hill right here at the western end of the village until the 1970s. There was also a brickyard. Time for some demographics. If, like me, you've never been here before, you'll be greeted by a population which is 99% white British, with around half of them of working age. Wilberfoss covers an area totalling 5.89 square kilometres, and this gives it a population density of 340.6. This is not a cheap village to pitch up in, that's for sure. The average price for a house here comes in at £304,000. Bus services here are all about the 40s. We have the 45, 45A, 46 and X47, which all run through Wilberfoss. So we've got the parish notice board there, which is opposite the pub, which we'll talk about in a few moments. But also we have a separate notice board outside the like village hall or community centre. Is this? Yes, community centre, that's what this is. It says it on the wall over there. And it's almost like a mini sort of bus shelter as well, I suppose, because we've got a bus stop here too. And as if that wasn't enough, here is the village's book exchange, which is a bit different to normal, isn't it? We normally see these in old red phone boxes, but this one's very well done. It's a nice little cabinet in this little bus shelter type thing, or entranceway, whatever you want to call it. Very well done, that. Wilberfoss Community Centre replaced the old village hall in 1999, and it was funded by the National Lottery. The village appears to have had at least 3 pubs in the 1800s, the True Britain, the Horseshoes and the Wagon and Horses. These days we have the Oddfellows Arms. Next is the church, which is just to the south of the site of Wilberfoss Priory. In 1967, this was designated a Grade 1 listed building and is now recorded in the National Heritage List for England. This consists of a chancel with a north vestry, a nave with a south aisle and porch, and west tower. In the late medieval period, the Priory church occupied the position of the present chancel. Although it incorporates some old materials, the present chancel appears to date from the 19th century. The tower was a 15th century addition. There's a little board here which details the churchyard and its wildlife, dubbing itself a living churchyard. It's an interesting read if you're a bird watcher. The churchyard was enlarged in 1858 and again in 1926. Overall, it's just another gorgeous corner of Wilberfoss village you must visit. Now, in terms of education, this is something that Wilberfoss has good provision for. You're looking at Muddy Boots here, a day nursery. And almost right next door is the primary school, Wilberfoss C of E Primary School. There are plenty of open green spaces in Wilberfoss. This is one such area, which looked quite pretty as well, with Wilberfoss in bloom starting to make the village look attractive in early spring. This is the Jubilee play area and tennis courts, which we pass as we head to the sports field. This handily gives me a chance to mention the Wilberfoss Jubilee Project, who in 2012 launched a book about the village with proceeds from the sales reinvested into the village. In 2018 it helped fund the notice board, which I marvelled over earlier. It was hand built. Now we're at the sports field and Wilberfoss Pavilion, and this is just everything rolled into one sports and recreation wise. There's a football pitch and there's obviously some local teams which use it, as well as an iron beacon and then the large Wilberfoss Pavilion overlooking it all. Would you believe me though if I told you that the pavilion and the main pitch are actually in Catton Parish? The boundary is the car park. In terms of shops, here's the one remaining shop in the village which doubles as the post office. And this is the butcher's, Frost's, and there's something within the grounds of this building which is mightily interesting, and I've put it in the landmarks section. Landmarks time, and we start with the Wilberfoss cross. This is the War Memorial, a stone cross on an octagonal column which stands on a square set pedestal near the community centre. You'll find a lot of benches around Wilberfoss too. This one caught my attention because it's situated within a few feet of the church and the beck that runs through the village. A nice spot. Earlier I mentioned a mosaic, and this is that very landmark. I cannot for the life of me find any information about this, but it depicts various things around the village, including the windmill. Wilberfoss stands just to the edge of a ridge known as the Escrick Moraine, and beside the substantial Foss Beck, which flows southwards to become Black Foss Beck in Sutton upon Derwent. A road bridge which once carried the principal road in the parish runs over the beck. Its name is Stone Bridge, so named by 1850, and it's not this one. So when I planned my route around Wilberfoss, I didn't include this bridge because I didn't think it was a lot of much, to be honest. But now that I've had a look at it, you know, in a bit more detail, it actually is quite an amazing bridge. It's got 3 arches, big one in the middle and 2 either side, and it just basically carries the road from the A1079 into the village. It's actually quite picturesque, that. This is quite a pretty beck, and there are several bridges which cross it, including this one close to the church. A Wesleyan chapel in Wilberfoss was built facing the beck in 1841 and remained in use until 1974. This, though, is the primitive Methodist chapel built in Back Lane in 1824 and rebuilt on the same site in 1872. Here's one of the old schoolhouses on Stalking Lane. By 1835 there were 2 day schools here with about 40 children and a boarding school for 14 boys. And perhaps saving the best until last, in the grounds of Frost's Butchers is the site of the old blacksmith's forge, clearly marked as such with a small plaque. It's awesome, this can still be seen. So there you have it, that's about an hour's walk around Wilberfoss. Now I will just mention this because I think it's important. This is not the first time we've come across a village in the East Riding that's got that double S in its name. We've had Hessel and we've had Wrestle as well, and some people pronounce that Hessel and Rezel, so really I suppose this could well be Wilberfos. I don't know either way, whether it's Wilberfoss or Wilberfos, don't really know, but I suppose it goes by both just like the other two do. So there you go, time for a picture bit. Here it comes right now. Now to finish this one off, I've come to something that I found when I drove into the village, and that's this. It's a mile marker. 21 miles to Beverley and 8 miles to York. And the reason this is here is because if you look on the map, this road here used to be the main road through the village, because up there beyond where I've parked my car, it goes up to the A1079, then stops and then continues on the other side. So the A1079 became the new road, if you like, to bypass the village. This would have been a turnpike, which explains why we saw the word turnpike on the mosaic earlier. There you go. The more you know, I suppose, the more you know. Anyway, that's been the parish of Wilberfoss, or Wilberfos, whichever way you'd like to pronounce it. And I'm going to move on to my next one here in the East Riding of Yorkshire, which means going slightly to the south. And I've got a special guest in that episode. It's going to be fun to film with someone by my side. This has been the parish of Wilberfoss, and I've been Andy, otherwise known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.